What's up guys, it's me Jeremy, and today I want to give you guys my Leona champion guide. I've been planning this guide for quite a while, and as Leona is my favorite champion as well as pretty much my best champion, this should hopefully be an awesome guide. Let's get started. Leona is a very aggressive support champion. She scales very well with gold because she can become ridiculously tanky. The Season 4 patch gave Leona an absolutely huge buff, and she's definitely one of the best supports for carrying solo queue right now. As with every champion, in order to play them effectively, you need to fully understand the strengths and the weaknesses, and then do your best to capitalize on the strengths while avoiding the weaknesses. Starting with the strengths, the first being that Leona is one of the best supports at starting fights. It's so easy to just Zenith Blade in and start a fight at pretty much any point during the laning phase. This is due to the massive range that Leona has on her abilities. With her ultimate, Leona vastly outranges pretty much any other support. And this is the biggest strength that she has over most matchups. This range will allow you to control the flow of the lane and be very proactive, since you can start fights at will, but also avoid fights you don't want by staying out of range. Another thing about Leona is that she's very powerful throughout all phases of the game. Once you hit level 2, you'll be strong in fights for the rest of the entire game. Because of the new gold changes, you aren't going to fall off late game in terms of tankiness anymore, and your early laning is powerful too, since nobody really plays Leona's bad matchups in lane anymore, at least right now. This power is of course due to her massive crowd control and natural tankiness. Leona has 3 crowd control abilities in her kit, which is just absolutely absurd. These factors allow you to generate loads of pressure whenever you have your skills up and be a massive force. Now onto her weaknesses, and the first is the most noticeable in that she has no sustain. Leona is an all-in champion, and because of her lack of sustain, she is very vulnerable to poke. This means that in lane it's important to be very decisive. Know when you want to go in and when you don't want to go in for a fight, as if you get caught in the middle making a decision, you're going to end up getting poked down for free without really trading anything back or being able to heal the damage back up. That or you'll be baited into a bad fight. However, there are solutions to this sustain problem in the setup of the build and masteries we create for Leona that I will go over later. Also, Leona is vulnerable when your abilities are on cooldown. If you pick a bad fight or miss your skill shots, it can be difficult to do anything to aid in that fight, since you'll become very vulnerable to kiting. If you mess up or choose a bad fight, it's pretty hard to disengage, and you'll likely take a lot of damage and get kited in the process of running away. This is the key point of counterplay that Leona has. This is the most important thing to not do on Leona, as it's the main way to beat a Leona in lane. You need to pick your fights very carefully, and if you mess up and miss, you need to back off immediately to avoid a counter engage from the opponents. In the laning phase with Leona, it's all about pressure to control the lane. Applying pressure through aggressive positioning will allow you to be in a very good spot to start fights. If the situation is optimal, do not hesitate to start fights, as that is what Leona excels at doing. Using the bushes is a key way for you to generate pressure, and because of this, I pretty much always get a sweeping lens on Leona, so you can deny vision in those bushes. Due to her massive ranges and strong crowd control, Leona counters pretty much any AD carry that has no escape. You can jump in on them, and then stick to that target for an easy kill. Leona just excels in general versus squishy targets that have no escape, as your crowd control as well as damage from your passive can be quite powerful and set up for loads of kills. On the contrary though, Leona does have some counterpicks. Lulu, Janna, and Nunu are great at surviving Leona's engages due to their kit, and then forcing Leona to disengage while poking her down, inhibiting her ability to run away. However, no one really plays those champions right now, so I wouldn't be too worried about them. For the teamfight phase, Leona is actually really great at protecting the carries. Her massive crowd control allows you to kite and help kill tanks that are diving your team. A lot of inexperienced Leona players will dive in onto the opponents in teamfights, but most of the time that isn't really a very good idea, since although Leona's damage in lane is pretty solid, in teamfights her damage is no longer as much, since her damage scaling into the late game is pretty poor. Diving in fights most of the time will just end up with you getting kited. Rather, it's much better to just try to CC the opponents who are diving in on your carries, as your massive crowd control will make keeping them alive fairly easy. However, there is one situation where you can dive in, and that's when you either have a nice flank going on, or if your team's in a great position to dive in, and you have 2 to 3 people that can follow up on your crowd control to dive in with you, ensuring that you can kill your target. Now, there's a lot of tips and tricks I can give you for Leona's mechanics. The first involves setting up for level 2 pressure. Using Leona's Shield of Daybreak, her Q, you can kill wards all by yourself without a method of true sight. An auto attack Q auto attack combo will be enough to hit a ward 3 times and kill it, and this is why we get our Q at level 1. A play like this allows you to set up for a solid level 2 fight, especially due to the significant lack of wards that people have at level 1 now. Another trick with Leona is that due to her massive ranges, you can actually counter mobility pretty easily. This is one of the key things that separates a good Leona player from a great Leona player, as you can use her Zenith Blade onto your opponent when they are in the middle of casting their escape spell, and you'll just jump to where they end up, effectively making their escape completely useless. And the same can be done with their ultimate, of course. Sometimes it's just kind of luck to do this, but predicting the opponent's mobility spells is a key thing that Leona's kit allows you to do really well. And lastly, when starting fights, you want to try to catch your opponent off guard. One of the best ways to do this is through something that I call a turn bait. Act like you're running away, and while your opponents start to chase you, instantly turn on them with your Zenith Blade. Due to the way Leona's animation works, this catches people off guard pretty easily and can be used to start some awesome fights. Also, you can try using the corners around the map to deny vision onto you and then start a fight from there. Or the most practical trick you can use is to engage the instant that your cooldowns come back up. People often will overestimate your cooldowns as they get cocky and think that your cooldowns will still be down for an extra second or two. So if you engage the instant that your cooldowns come up, you can catch them off guard and they'll be unsuspecting. Alright, remember that runes and masteries are all personal preference and should be tailored to your playstyle, but for runes, I take armor reds, armor yellows, magic resistance blues, and movement speed quints. This tanky page as well as the movement speed will help you dominate your lane and transition well into teamfights. And for masteries, I take a 0-21-9 page that allows you to be really tanky and get some extra health regen for sustain, as well as some more movement speed to aid your aggressive nature. And for the skill order, you of course want to start with your Q at level 1 to kill a ward, but if the team is invading or fighting at level 1, you probably want to start with your E for the gap closer. Whichever you get first, get the other at level 2, and then proceed to max your W, as that scales up the defensive nature of it and allows you to become even more tanky. Lastly, you want to max your E second since it lowers the cooldown, and your E is much more powerful in prolonged fights as it allows you to chase. In addition, you want the cooldown of your Q and E to be relatively the same so that they come up at the same time, and that's what maxing your E second allows. And of course, put points into your ultimate whenever possible. For summoners, you probably want Flash and Exhaust for the extra crowd control, but you can take Ignite versus teams where Exhaust is not very good against. For the item build, you need to start Relic Shield, not so much for the gold, but for the health and health regen. Going any other gold item will make you very squishy in lane, and is a common mistake from inexperienced Leona players. That early tank-oriented item is absolutely necessary, otherwise you just really won't be tanky in lane, and that leaves you very vulnerable, and actually makes you really weak in lane. You also need to upgrade the Relic Shield as soon as possible, otherwise the gold generation ability of it is pretty much negligible. So to get some gold, you want to upgrade that immediately. Then I rush Randuin's and pick up boots along the way, then I'll finish my boots into either Mercury Treads or Mobility Boots, and then I'll finish the Face of the Mountain, which is actually an amazing item for shielding your team, and I like it a lot. After that, I'll go Spirit Visage and then get another tank item based on the situation. Of course, be sure to always pick up wards, and you can upgrade your trinket if your team needs the extra ward clearing. Just make sure that you're building tanky, as everything else doesn't really scale very well on Leona at all. So, my name is Jeremy, and that is it for my Leona guide. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to check out some of my others on the screen right now. I'd love if you could support me with a like, and please subscribe for more awesome content in the future if you enjoyed this video. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.